All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going to demystify one of the biggest tools in the business world right now, Microsoft's Power Platform. My goal is simple. I want to take you from just being curious about it to feeling like you can actually roll up your sleeves and get started.
So, let me start with a question for you. Have you ever been stuck doing some mind-numbing, repetitive task and just thought, man, I wish I had an app for this? But you're not a professional coder. Well, that exact feeling, that exact problem is precisely what the Power Platform was built to solve.
You see, for years and years, building software was this long, expensive process that was totally locked away inside IT departments. It was a job for the experts. But we are right in the middle of this massive shift. The low-code promise is all about flipping that script, making development faster, way more accessible, and putting the power to create right into the hands of the people who are actually doing the work every day.
Okay, so that brings us to our first big idea, the low-code promise. The core concept here is something called the democratization of development. It's about creating this whole new wave of builders called citizen developers. And that just means anyone in a company, whether you're in marketing, finance, HR, you name it, can build things to solve their own problems with technology.
So what is the Power Platform officially? It's really important to think of it as a family of tools, not just one single thing. It's this whole suite that lets you build apps, set up automations, and analyze data, all with little to no coding. It's your one-stop shop for business intelligence, app building, and connecting everything together.
So if it's a family of tools, what's actually in the box? I like to think of it as a digital Swiss Army knife. Each tool has its own special job, but they all work together beautifully. So let's meet the core components you're going to be using.
First up is Power Apps. This is what you'll use to build the screens that people will actually touch and interact with. We're talking everything from a simple form for entering data to a really complex inspection app for field workers. It's mostly a drag-and-drop kind of experience, and it comes in two main flavors. You've got Canvas apps, where you have total pixel-perfect control over the design, and then you have model-driven apps, which are built around your data and are absolutely fantastic for creating structured processes and forms super fast.
Next up, Power Automate. This is the automation engine of the whole platform. Its entire job is to take care of those repetitive, manual tasks that just drain your time. The logic is so simple. When this specific thing happens, then do that other thing. Like, for instance, when a new email with an attachment lands in my inbox, automatically save that file to a SharePoint folder and then send a message to my team. What you build is called a flow, and it's just this brilliant chain of events that runs all on its own.
Okay, but what if you need to build something for people outside your company, like customers or partners? Well, that's where Power Pages comes in. This is your tool for creating secure, professional-looking websites, and it's a great example of how this platform keeps evolving. Power Pages actually used to be a feature inside Power Apps called Portals, but it grew up and became its own powerful product for building these external sites.
And believe it or not, the toolkit doesn't stop there. To really round it out, you've also got Power BI, which is an absolutely world-class tool for analyzing business data and creating these beautiful interactive dashboards. And then there's Copilot Studio, which you might have known by its old name, Power Virtual Agents, that lets you build your own AI chatbots to answer customer questions all without writing code.
So you've met the tools. Now what? To really get going, it helps to have a clear goal in mind. So let's frame this as your first quest. Conquering the PL900, which is the Microsoft Power Platform Fundamentals exam. It's the perfect way to prove to yourself and others that you've got this foundational knowledge down.
All right, so how do you prepare for this quest? Let's look at the map, the official exam breakdown. Right away, you can see Power Apps is the biggest piece of the pie, making up almost a third of the questions. But you can't ignore the other stuff. You've got to have a solid handle on the platform's business value, how to manage environments, and of course, the basics of Power Automate and Power Pages.
Now, the official Microsoft Learn path is great. It really is. But here is a super important piece of advice from the community. Just like this user on Reddit said, relying on just that one thing probably isn't enough. The wisdom of the crowd is pretty clear on this. You need to combine the official learning paths with hands-on labs and tutorials from places like YouTube. That mix of theory and real-world practice, that's the secret sauce.
Okay, we've got apps, we've got automations, we've got websites, but that brings up a really big question, right? Where does all the data for these things actually live? What holds it all together? To answer that, we need to talk about the platform's central brain. And that central brain is called Microsoft Dataverse. Now, it's way more than just a database. It's a secure, smart, cloud-based data service that acts as the single source of truth for your business. And yeah, you might have heard its old name, the Common Data Service. They are the exact same thing.
This is where your most important business data can live, where it's managed and where it's kept safe. So how does this brain actually organize information? It's honestly pretty straightforward. First, you have tables, which, by the way, used to be called entities. Think of these as the containers, like customers or invoices. Then, inside those tables, you have columns, which used to be called fields. These are the specific data points like customer name or invoice amount. And finally, you have relationships, which is just how you connect the tables to each other, just like in the real world. But here's the part that really unlocks the platform's true power: connectors. Because even though Dataverse is the central brain, your data doesn't have to live there. Connectors are like universal power adapters. They let your apps and flows talk to over 1,200 different services. I mean, everything from an internal SharePoint list to a big SQL database, to even external sites like Twitter or Salesforce. This is the magic that makes a platform so incredibly flexible.
We are almost there. But before we wrap up, we have to cover the real-world rules of the road. In this last section, we're going to quickly cover the absolute essentials of security and licensing so you can use this platform responsibly and, not get in trouble.
Security can sound really intimidating, but let's just boil it down to 3 key things. First, control who can see and do what. That's done with security roles. It's just common sense. Second, you have to prevent data leaks. You can create these things called data loss prevention policies, or DLP, that act like guardrails so someone can't accidentally post sensitive company info to, say, Twitter. And a super simple but effective tip for any public forums: add a CAPTCHA. It'll save you from getting spammed by bots.
And finally, licensing. Oh boy, this can get complicated, but let's just simplify the most common question you'll face with Power Apps. The choice really boils down to this. If a person in your company needs to use a whole bunch of different apps or websites, the Power Apps Premium plan is probably the right call. It gives them unlimited access. But if that user only needs to run one specific app, or maybe 2, the per-app plan is going to be way more cost-effective.
So there it is, the power to build, to automate, to innovate. It's not just for professional developers anymore. It's for you. You have the tools, you have a roadmap, and you know the basic rules of the road. So the only real question left is the one right there on your screen. Now that you know the fundamentals, what problem will you solve first?